Hi guys, live started without me today. Sorry about that. I don't know what's up. Hi guys. Today's live might be one that you might enjoy. It is a conservation success story, which means we are talking about an animal who has been close to the brink of extinction, and yet at the same time has pulled itself back. Not sure. It's it's not super long-winded. It's sort of a, here it is, let's talk about it briefly and then move on. It's not my shortest live ever, but it's not the longest live ever. Just bear with it. So, this is not one of those stories that begins in the 1800s. It's not one of those stories that begins in some far off distant land. This happens just off the coast of California in the Channel Islands. And it begins, like I said, not in some distant time. For some of you, it might be a distant time, but for me, it's the year I graduated high school. Hey, carry me through. How is live going? Okay. And it begins with an animal called the channel fox. Now, we don't know how the foxes got to the island. The islands could at one time have been attached to California. That is entirely possible. Something might have happened and they might have swam to the island. Water level may have been different back then and they were able to walk to the islands. I don't know. But whatever happened, they got stuck. Now, they are not a separate species, I don't believe. Let's look. Because I have not looked at the scientific name. They could also be I was wrong. They are in fact own species, but they are for sure related to the gray fox. So I want to make that clear. This is not a copycat species or subspecies. This is in fact its own species. That being said, well, we'll get to that in a minute. This is the largest land animal that is native to the Channel Islands. Let that sink in for a second. It is the largest land mammal that is native to the Channel Islands. However, it's also one of the smallest species of canine in the world. Now, they were never yes, it is a fox. They were never a species with a great big explosive population. Okay? They just weren't. However, something happened in 1990 that changed this fox's world. They didn't magically find, a pocket of female foxes. That did not happen. But what did happen is the bald eagle population that was on the islands vanished. Like, they were gone. Extinct from the islands. And at the same time, pigs were on the island. Now, pigs are not native to this island. Neither were the mule deer that were introduced to the island. So now you have a new prey species. Not for the foxes, but for another predator to arrive in the island. And now they're just not hunting the piglets and the deer fawn, but now they're feeding on the foxes. And that predator is the golden eagle. Now, golden eagles, not native to these islands at all. They showed up in 1990. And this caused, of course, over time, a drop in population. So, what did we do? Well, the U.S. Park Department got involved. The national parks got involved because the Channel Islands are, in fact, a national park. And so in 2000, the population was almost gone. And that is when the Channel Islands staff said, hey, we have to do something or this species is going to go. So what they did is they gathered up some foxes. I don't know how many. They might have gathered them all up for all I know. And started breeding the foxes so that they could be released on the island. or islands. At the same time, they went out and they captured the golden eagles and removed them from the islands. And after they did that, then they started reintroducing bald eagles onto the island. Once that was done, then it was time to remove the pigs and the mule deer, because islands that did not evolve with large not predators, but with large herbivores, it creates problems with the native vegetation. And so then you have a double whammy, because then you don't have foxes, but you also don't have the animals to go, or the plant material needed for the fox's survival. Now, I didn't do a really deep dive on this subject, and I should have. I want to see. As of right now, the island fox is near threatened. So, where does that fit in with going extinct? So what that means is we have extinct. Actually, we'll start at this end with. We'll start up here. We have least concern. That means the animal, no problems. Then we have near threatened, which is we're starting to drop. Populations are starting to drop. Then we have near threatened. Then we have vulnerable, which is the next step to endangered. From endangered, we hit critically endangered. And from critically endangered, we have extinct in the wild. And then we have extinct. And so, sort of where they were at. Now, they were assessed in 2013. And at that time, they bumped them up. There are 4,100. There are 4,100. I probably was stressing it. It's least concern, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild, and extinct. The near threatened is it's 2 steps above endangered. So they are still monitoring this animal, because obviously they don't want it to slip. We don't want this animal to disappear again. So we're watching. Oh, man. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I want to look and see. No. There's just near threatened. Now they're calling them island gray foxes on this website, or just foxes. Now, these are in zoos. you can potentially go to one of these 3 zoos and see this animal. Now, they're only in 3 zoos. And those zoos are the Living Desert Zoo and Garden, which I think has been on the other channel, the main channel, at least once. When we did Australian Adventures. And then they're also at the San Diego Zoo and the Santa Barbara Zoo. Those are probably the 3 zoos. Hold on. Because people don't know not to call the house. Never mind. I'm going to let it go to voicemail. Hopefully it's not important. So anyway, that is the fox in general. So there is good news. One of the problems that I have is I don't know what the baseline population was. It has also been, let's see, it's been 12 years since this animal was last assessed. So it's hard to say exactly where that population level is now. One would assume it's grown. Going to see if I can... $8,000 as of 2023. Now, one of the problems, again, this is an island animal. So each island could have a different population. So you have to look at it all together, all of the populations on each island, and then figure that out. So that's good news for them. It still can have issues like disease or human impact. The good news is, though, is that predator-wise, they're at a better state. Always like to hear that. Now, these guys are different from their mainland counterparts. Gray foxes on the mainland are nocturnal. So you're not going to necessarily see them a whole bunch. However, on the islands now, there's no natural predators. And so they are active basically during daylight hours. The island foxes are about the size of a cat. So they're about 12 to 13 inches in height, and they weigh somewhere around 4 to 5 pounds. They do bark. They growl. They live for around 15 years. We don't know the exact. I'm assuming 15 years. They are found on six. They're found on 6 of the islands. Including the 3 largest islands, which are in the national park. So, yeah. And we do have actual fossil remains from the species dating back at least 6,000 years before the present. So several thousand years, which is also really cool. It is possible that indigenous people may have brought these foxes to the island. Yes. Which makes sense, really. There were natives on these islands. These guys are going to be feeding on deer mice, Jerusalem crickets, beetles, and earwigs. Interesting. As well as fruits like cactus, manzanita, salt bushes, and sea figs. They may also hunt down crabs or other things. I don't think the bison are native to the islands. If I could type, it'd be really great. If I remember right, they are not native. There were 14. Yes, they were brought to Santa Catalina in 1924 for a movie. They are considered to be an invasive species. And like I said, and like you said, they are limited to Santa Catalina. And it's actually those buffalo or bison that are the buffalo or bison that were first brought to the island in 1924. They are the ancestors to the bison that live there now. I believe they are probably controlled population-wise. Yes, they are actually maintained. Some of them are on contraception. That's one way to control the breeding. Moving them to other areas, probably on the mainland, just to help maintain a population that isn't going to destroy the island's ecosystem. And it's a fine line, because if you cross the line too much, your ecosystem is going to go bye-bye, because the bison will eat all of the plants. So, if you were to visit Catalina Islands, you would also meet other animals, including, but not limited to, pinnipeds. There are 3 types of pinnipeds that live on the Catalina Islands. They are the California sea lion, harbor seals, and northern elephant seals. And as I have said before, anytime you have seals or pinnipeds in general living in an area, you're going to have sharks. And so these islands are also in the sights of great white sharks. Yeah. So, and basically, they are going to be limited to areas along the beach. I don't know if the foxes have anything to do with them. I really don't. So, there's that. You know, I have a thought. It's a really bad thought, but I have a thought. But I'll keep it to myself right now. Yeah, that is all I have. Questions, comments, anything like that. Now is the time to speak up. Otherwise, you know what they say, hold your breath. I love doing the conservation stuff because it's really important. Conservation, bottom line, is why we do this. Why I do this. It doesn't make me a bad person. Quite the opposite. I know. Be nice if some of the other 300 people would be here, but nobody. But there's been some squawk about environmentalists, and this is something that was said. I'm not going to say who said it because I think you can guess. And I'm not saying that I support or whatever him. This climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chances for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm sure I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. So, yeah. How I feel about it? Nope. Not online. Nope. Because it means I have to get political. And I am not getting political. Because when you do, bad stuff happens. Oh. So, I don't know. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, who's ever out there who might be watching that might not be watching, I'm going to sign off. Usually I would push this for the whole hour. I'm not going to do that today. Wait a minute. What's this? Anyways, I'm going to let you go. Have a good one. Let me know in the comments what you thought about today's live. And with that, guys, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.